Hey guys, and welcome to the very last section of our reading. We're going to do a summary, of course, and then the very last one will be the section's actual reading. All right, so our overall goal, we're going to move forward very quickly now. Callicles is kind of spent, and so we're just going to look at some of Socrates' arguments, and we're going to apply Socrates' arguments about the good and the good mind and what a good practice is to an understanding as to how we can live the good life, okay? The first thing we need to do in that process is to outline key premises. Then we need to explore how Socrates thinks we should live a good life. So what are the things we should do? And then how can communities help people live a good life? They are the main objectives of what we're trying to achieve today. So can you quickly score yourselves on these success criteria? And then can you draw a picture of what you think would be a thing you need to do in order to live a good life? Awesome. Okay, so at the start of this section, we introduced to Callicles, and he has a little bit of a dummy spit. He's like, oh, I just can't convince you. And so he has a bit of a cry, and he bows out of the conversation and leaves the rest up to Socrates. He says, answer your own questions, and he storms off. Okay. And yet that is then a trigger for a monologue, which is obviously Plato through Socrates telling everybody what he thinks is the good life. Okay. And he comes up with this idea that anything is good has to be highly ordered and highly structured, just like a watch. You might remember last year we talked about Paley's watchmaker analogy, where he said that the universe is like a watch. It's highly specific and ordered. You rearrange one thing and it doesn't work properly. Well, the same kind of level of ordering a watch needs to be applied to the mind. And the only way that you can physically create this highly ordered mind is through discipline, self-restraint, and nurturing it, and by actually having control over what the mind is. If you do this, if you enable the mind to develop its complex structure so it can rationally think and so it's able then to, once it thinks rationally, pursue other goods in life, you have basically achieved a good mind. And a good mind will help you nurture these qualities. A person who is a perfect example of goodness, or we're going to call it a paradigm of goodness, is someone who has built the capacity to perform actions that are just, actions that are religious, and actions that require bravery. If you do all that, he argues, you're going to be able to live a quite happy life and a quite successful life. You're able to confront the truth, be brave enough to do it, to live a just and respectful life by others, and he thinks that's pretty important. And then he goes on to argue something a bit deeper. He says, look, communities should create structures within themselves that encourage the development of people to be just and to be restrained and disciplined. If these communities create structures that allow people to develop these two qualities, you're going to have a happy community as well. And then he has words to people who don't cultivate these three qualities. He basically says, if you don't, you're going to be unhappy in life because you're going to live your life like an outlaw and you're not going to be able to experience the joy of interacting with others, of being part of society, of being part of community. All right? And this is where he finally leaves it. He finally leaves it right here. His conclusion at the end of all of this is the reason why it's better to suffer harm than to do harm is because in the process of doing so, you create the community, you allow the community to exist that is just, religious, and brave. You also allow yourself to nurture these qualities by not doing harm, but allowing yourself to suffer harm. You allow yourself to become just and reflect on just actions. You allow yourself to do things that are religious, and you allow yourself to do things that are brave. And then part of you ends up being good. So it's by doing harm to others, you nurture the wrong qualities. It's actually engaging in some kind of form of flattery. Because really it's about avoiding pain and just wanting to experience pleasure. But when you allow yourself to suffer rather than do wrong, you're in effect allowing yourself to experience good experiences that nurture that highly ordered mind, that healthy mind that Socrates has been talking about for a while. Okay, so let's go back to our goals. Our goals were we're going to outline the key premises. We've done that by looking at all the different pictures and the comments that were made and how they relate to each other. We're going to explore what Socrates thinks we need to do to live a good life. And we talked about those three qualities in the good life. Justice. You need to be just, religious, and brave. And we talked about it's the community's responsibility to nurture the development of the traits of just, religious, and brave in its citizens. And that's what creates a good society. So we've actually quickly reflected on all these three different things. And when we do the reading, of course, we're going to find a more nuanced understanding of what it is that he's saying. And we'll get to that in just a second. Cheers.